Document. Part 1. The stars above Earth shimmered like diamonds scattered across a dark velvet canvas. It was a peaceful night, one that seemed ordinary to most people, gazing up at the sky. But in the vastness of space, something extraordinary was happening. A strange ripple formed near the edge of Earth's orbit, a swirling vortex of light and energy. Within moments, a fleet of massive ships emerged from the wormhole, their metallic hulls gleaming ominously in the sunlight. These were not human vessels. They belonged to an alien empire known as the Vernax, a civilization that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. Their leader, Commander Zorak, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth with cold, calculating eyes. He had heard rumors of this planet, of its blue oceans, green lands, and the peculiar creatures called humans, who called it home. Today, he would see for himself if these beings were worthy of joining the Empire, if they deserved to be erased. On Earth, no one noticed the Armada at first. The ships hovered silently just beyond the moon, cloaked by advanced technology. Then, without warning, a signal broadcasted across every frequency. Television screens flickered, radios crackled, and smartphones buzzed as the same message played everywhere. A deep, guttural voice spoke, distorted slightly by translation software, but clear enough to send chills down spines. "People of Earth," the voice began, "you stand before the might of the Vernax Empire. Your world is now under our jurisdiction. Surrender your resources and submit to our rule, or face total annihilation." The message ended abruptly, leaving billions of people stunned. In living rooms, offices, and public squares, confusion turned to fear. Who were these invaders? What did they want? And why now? Governments scrambled to respond, holding emergency meetings and activating defense protocols. News outlets erupted with speculation, while social media overflowed with panic and disbelief. In Washington, D.C., President Laura Hayes sat in the Oval Office, her face pale but resolute. She had been briefed about the situation minutes after the transmission ended. Her advisors surrounded her, speaking rapidly about potential responses. Some suggested negotiating with the aliens, hoping to buy time. Others urged immediate military action, arguing that showing weakness would only embolden the invaders. "We can't give in to them," Hayes said firmly, cutting through the noise. "If we surrender, they'll take everything: our freedom, our dignity, our lives. We have to fight." Her words echoed through the room, silencing even the most skeptical voices. Though she knew the odds were against them, she refused to let humanity bow to an unknown enemy. With a nod, she instructed her team to prepare a global address. Within hours, her speech would reach every corner of the planet. Meanwhile, in Colorado Springs, General Ryan Carter paced anxiously inside the command center of the United Earth Defense Fleet, UEDF. Maps and holographic displays covered the walls, showing the positions of the alien ships relative to Earth. His sharp eyes scanned the data, searching for any advantage they could exploit. Beside him stood Dr. Emily Dawson, a renowned astrophysicist whose expertise in extraterrestrial phenomena made her invaluable during this crisis. "This isn't just some random attack," Dawson said, pointing to a diagram of the wormhole. "They've been planning this for years. Look at their formation. It's too precise, too organized." Carter nodded grimly. "Which means they've done this before, probably dozens of times." "And one," Dawson added quietly, before either could dwell on the implications. Alarms blared throughout the facility. A technician shouted, "Sir, they're moving closer. They're positioning themselves for an orbital strike." Carter clenched his fists, his mind racing. "Notify all units. We need to intercept them before they hit our cities." At Edwards Air Force Base in California, Captain Jason Cole reviewed flight plans with his squadron. As a seasoned pilot with years of experience, he radiated calm despite the chaos unfolding around him. His team trusted him implicitly, knowing he always had their backs. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Bennett, a fiery young officer with unmatched reflexes, and Lieutenant Daniel Cruz, a tactical genius who excelled in high-pressure situations. "Listen up," Cole said, addressing his crew. "We don't know what we're dealing with yet, but we can't afford to hesitate. Stick to the plan, watch each other's sixes, and remember this isn't just about us. It's about everyone back home." His words bolstered their spirits, though none could shake the weight of what lay ahead. Moments later, they climbed into their fighter jets, engines roaring to life as they prepared for launch. The airfield buzzed with activity as ground crews worked tirelessly to arm and fuel the aircraft. As the UEDF mobilized, civilians braced for the worst. In New York City, families huddled together in basements and subway stations, praying for safety. In Tokyo, streets emptied as sirens wailed endlessly. Even in remote villages far from urban centers, people gathered around radios, listening intently for updates. Back in space, the Imperial Armada loomed larger than ever. Its ships resembled jagged mountains floating in the void, their surfaces adorned with glowing symbols that pulsed rhythmically. Smaller vessels detached from the main fleet, descending toward Earth like vultures, circling prey. Commander Zorak watched the spectacle unfold with detached satisfaction. To him, this was merely another conquest, a necessary step in expanding the Empire's dominion. He cared little for the lives he was about to destroy. To him, they were insignificant insects unworthy of mercy. But Zorak underestimated humanity. Despite their differences, humans shared a common trait that set them apart from many species: the will to survive. All over the globe, men and women rose to meet the challenge. Determined to protect their homes and loved ones, Captain Cole led his squadron into the fray, dodging bursts of plasma fire as they engaged the enemy. The alien ships moved with eerie precision, their weapons tearing through the atmosphere like streaks of lightning. Explosions lit up the sky as missiles collided with shields, creating dazzling displays of destruction. Lieutenant Cruz quickly realized something crucial. The enemy relied heavily on centralized shield generators. If they could disable those, they might stand a chance. "Fox 2, he yelled, launching a heat-seeking missile at a nearby generator. The impact caused a chain reaction, disabling multiple ships and giving the humans a brief reprieve. For the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered in the hearts of the defenders. Maybe, just maybe, they could win this fight, but the battle was far from over. The Imperial Armada regrouped, unleashing a fresh wave of attacks. Cities burned. Skies darkened with smoke, and countless lives were lost. Yet amid the devastation, humanity refused to yield. Pilots fought with unmatched bravery, soldiers held their ground, and ordinary citizens found ways to contribute. Whether by tending to the wounded or manufacturing supplies, President Hayes delivered her address as promised, her voice steady and strong. "To the people of Earth," she began, "today we face a threat unlike any we've known. But I believe in Usin, our courage, our resilience, and our unity. Together, we will overcome this darkness and emerge stronger than ever. For ourselves, for our children, and for the future of our planet, we will prevail." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring millions to keep fighting. From the highest ranks of government to the humblest corners of society, humanity united under a single banner. The war had only just begun, but already it was clear that surrender was not an option. And so, as dawn broke over a battered but unbroken Earth, the stage was set for a struggle that would define generations to come. The Imperial Armada had attacked, expecting easy victory. Instead, they awakened a sleeping Gianta species, capable of unimaginable strength. When pushed to the brink, humanity was ready to crush them without mercy. Document, Part 2. The deadline passed without a response from Earth. Commander. Zorak's patience wore thin as he monitored the situation aboard his flagship. He had expected the humans to surrender immediately, groveling for mercy like so many other species before them. But instead, they remained defiant, rallying their forces and preparing for battle. To Zorak, this was both infuriating and fascinating. Such audacity from such primitive beings almost made him admire them, though only briefly. "Begin the assault," Zorak ordered, his voice cold and emotionless. "Target their major cities first. Let them see what defiance brings." With those words, the Imperial Armada launched its first wave of attacks. Hundreds of sleek alien fighters streaked toward Earth, their engines leaving trails of fiery light in the atmosphere. The ships split into groups, each heading for a different target: New York, Tokyo, London, Sydney, and others. The skies above these cities erupted in chaos as plasma cannons fired relentlessly, turning peaceful neighborhoods into war zones. In New York City, panic gripped the streets as explosions rocked skyscrapers and bridges. People ran for cover, screaming and crying, as debris rained down around them. Firefighters and paramedics worked tirelessly to rescue survivors, but the sheer scale of destruction overwhelmed even the most experienced responders. Across the globe, similar scenes unfolded: families huddled together in basements, soldiers rushed to defend key locations, and hospitals overflowed with casualties. Meanwhile, high above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Jason Cole led his squadron into fierce dogfights against the invaders. His fighter jet darted through the void, narrowly avoiding blasts of energy that illuminated the darkness like fireworks. Beside him, Lieutenant Sarah Bennett and Lieutenant Daniel Cruz fought with equal determination, their movements synchronized despite the chaos. "Stay sharp," Cole shouted over the comms. "They're fast, but we're smarter." Bennett gritted her teeth as she locked onto an enemy ship. Her finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the opportunity came, she fired, sending a missile straight into the alien vessel. It exploded in a brilliant flash, scattering fragments across space. "Scratch one, bogey," she yelled triumphantly. But the victory was short-lived. Another group of enemy ships swooped in, forcing the squadron to scatter. Cole cursed under his breath as he performed a barrel roll, narrowly dodging a plasma bolt that would have vaporized him instantly. These aliens were relentless, their tactics precise and efficient. Every move they made seemed calculated, leaving little room for error. Back at Edwards Air Force Base, engineers worked frantically to repair damaged jets and refuel returning pilots. The hangar buzzed with activity as ground crews shouted orders and scrambled to keep up with the demands of the battle. Among them was Emma Thompson, a teenage volunteer who had begged to help when the invasion began. Though she was young, her knowledge of coding and robotics proved invaluable. She programmed drones to assist reconnaissance missions, giving the pilots crucial intel about enemy positions. As the fighting continued, Lieutenant Cruz made a critical discovery. While analyzing data from a downed alien ship, he noticed something unusual: a pattern in how their shields operated. Each vessel seemed to rely on a centralized hub for power distribution. If they could disable that hub, the shields would collapse, leaving the ships vulnerable. "Captain, I think I've found a weakness," Cruz said excitedly over the comms. "Their shields are tied to specific nodes. Hit those nodes with an EMP burst, and we can take them out." Cole nodded, impressed by Cruz's ingenuity. "Good work, Lieutenant. Let's test your theory." Moments later, Cruz positioned himself near an enemy cruiser, targeting its shield generator with precision. He activated the EMP device mounted on his jet, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic energy that surged through the alien ship. The effect was immediate. The cruiser's shields flickered and disappeared, exposing it to further attacks. "This is it," Cole exclaimed. "Everyone, focus on the shield nodes." The squadron adjusted their strategy accordingly, coordinating their efforts to exploit the newfound vulnerability. One by one, Enemy ships fell victim to the EMP bursts, their defenses crumbling under relentless fire. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity gained the upper hand. But the cost of victory was steep. During the skirmish, Lieutenant Alex Rivera, close friend of Cruz, was shot down while covering his teammates. His jet spiraled out of control, disappearing into the fiery haze of battle. Cruz froze for a moment, staring at the spot where Rivera had been moments earlier. Anger and grief welled up inside him, threatening to overwhelm him. "Cruz, stay focused." Cole barked over the comms. "We need you here." Cruz clenched his jaw, forcing himself to push aside his emotions. Now wasn't the time to grieve. There would be time for that later if they survived. Taking a deep breath, he rejoined the fight, channeling his pain into determination. Every shot he fired, every maneuver he executed, was fueled by the memory of his fallen comrade. On the ground, civilians watched the aerial battles unfold with a mix of awe and terror. Television screens showed live footage of the conflict, capturing the breathtaking spectacle of human ingenuity clashing with alien technology. Commentators marveled at the bravery of the pilots, dubbing them heroes for holding the line against impossible odds. President Laura Hayes addressed the nation once again, her tone resolute yet compassionate. "Today, our defenders have shown extraordinary courage in the face of unimaginable danger. They remind us that no matter how dire the situation, humanity will never give up. We owe them our gratitude and our unwavering support." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring millions to rally behind the war effort. Factories shifted production to build advanced weaponry and starships capable of countering the alien threat. Scientists collaborated to develop new technologies, pushing the boundaries of innovation. Even ordinary citizens found ways to contribute, whether by volunteering at shelters or donating supplies. As night fell, the battle showed no signs of slowing. The skies above Earth burned with streaks of light, a grim reminder of the ongoing struggle. Despite the losses suffered, hope flickered in the hearts of the defenders. Humanity had discovered a way to fight back, and they weren't going to stop until the invaders were driven away. Commander Zorak observed the resistance with growing frustration. These humans refused to break, even when faced with overwhelming force. Their persistence baffled him, challenging everything he thought he knew about conquest. But Zorak was not one to admit defeat. He ordered reinforcements to join the fray, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. Unbeknownst to him, humanity's resolve only grew stronger with each passing hour. Pilots returned to base, exhausted but proud, knowing they had struck a blow against the enemy. Engineers worked through the night to upgrade their equipment, incorporating lessons learned from the battle. Leaders strategized tirelessly, planning their next moves with precision. Among them was Dr. Emily Dawson, whose research provided vital insights into the Vernax fleet's weaknesses. She pored over data retrieved from captured alien tech, searching for any advantage humanity could exploit. Her discoveries gave the UEDF a fighting chance, proving that intelligence was just as important as brute force. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity dared to believe they might win. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but they were ready to face whatever came their way. United by a common purpose, they stood firm against the darkness, refusing to let fear dictate their fate. And so, as dawn broke over a battered but unyielding Earth, the stage was set for a war unlike any other. The Imperial Armada had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. Document Part 3. The battle raged on, but for the first time in history, humanity found itself united not by choice, but by necessity. The attacks from the Imperial Armada had shattered borders and erased differences. Nations that once argued over land, resources, or politics now stood side by side, driven by a single goal: survival. It was a fragile alliance, born out of desperation, but it held fast as leaders across the globe pledged their full support to the war effort. In Washington, D.C., President Laura Hayes convened an emergency meeting of the Global Alliance Council, a coalition of representatives from every nation. The Council's primary objective was clear: to coordinate military efforts and ensure no region of Earth fell behind in the fight. General Ryan Carter attended the meeting alongside Dr. Emily Dawson, whose expertise in alien technology continued to provide critical insights. Together, they presented a bold plan to upgrade Earth's defenses and counter the Vernax threat. "We need to think bigger," Carter said, addressing the council. "Their ships are advanced, yes, but we have something they don't: creativity. We adapt faster than they do. If we pool our resources, we can turn this tide." His words struck a chord with the gathered leaders. One by one, nations agreed to redirect their industries toward the war effort. Factories that once produced cars, electronics, and clothing shifted gears, churning out weapons, starships, and cutting-edge technology. Engineers worked around the clock, designing plasma cannons, adaptive AI systems for fighter jets, and improved shielding for ground forces. Even farmers contributed by growing food specifically for soldiers and displaced civilians. Dr. Dawson played a key role in these developments. Working alongside a team of engineers led by Mark Bennett, she pushed the boundaries of human innovation. They studied fragments of alien tech recovered from downed ships, reverse engineering components, to enhance Earth's own arsenal. Her breakthroughs included energy-efficient reactors, small enough to fit inside fighter jets, and targeting systems capable of predicting enemy movements. These advancements gave the UEDF a fighting chance against the superior numbers of the Vernax fleet. But the war effort wasn't limited to governments and scientists. Ordinary citizens rallied together, determined to play their part. In schools, teenagers like Emma Thompson used their coding skills to program drones for reconnaissance missions. Retired mechanics volunteered at repair stations, fixing damaged vehicles and equipment. Artists painted murals of hope and resilience on bombed-out buildings, reminding people why they were fighting. Even children collected scrap metal and old electronics, donating them to factories for recycling into new materials. Sarah Bennett, still reeling from the loss of her friend Alex Rivera, threw herself into the mission. She spent hours training rookie pilots, teaching them how to exploit the weaknesses crews had discovered in the alien shields. Her fiery determination inspired others, earning her respect among both veterans and newcomers. Though grief lingered in her heart, she refused to let it consume her. Instead, she channeled it into action, vowing to honor Rivera's memory by ensuring no other pilot suffered the same fate. Captain Jason Cole also felt the weight of leadership more heavily than ever before. As the face of humanity's resistance, he carried not only his squadron but the hopes of billions on his shoulders. Every decision he made could mean life or death for his crew, for civilians below, and for the future of Earth itself. Yet despite the pressure, he remained calm and focused. His ability to stay composed under fire earned him loyalty from those who served under him. One day, during a briefing at Edwards Air Force Base, Cole addressed his team. "We've proven we can hold our own against these invaders," he began, pacing slowly in front of the assembled pilots. "But holding our ground isn't enough. We need to push back, to take the fight to them." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Starting today, we'll launch targeted strikes against their supply lines and command centers. Hit them where it hurts. Make them regret coming here." The room erupted in murmurs of agreement. While the idea of going on the offensive excited many, it also brought uncertainty. The Vernax fleet still outnumbered the UEDF significantly, and pushing deeper into enemy territory meant risking everything. But Cole's confidence was infectious, and the pilots trusted him implicitly. As preparations for the next phase of the war intensified, stories of heroism spread across the globe, lifting spirits and strengthening resolve. News outlets highlighted acts of bravery, from soldiers defending towns to ordinary citizens risking their lives to save strangers. One story captured international attention: a group of fishermen off the coast of Norway who used their boats to rescue survivors after an alien attack sank a nearby naval vessel. Their quick thinking saved dozens of lives, proving that courage came in all forms. Even amid the chaos, humanity's creativity shone through. Musicians wrote songs about unity and perseverance, performing them live on social media platforms to reach audiences worldwide. Writers penned essays and poems celebrating the indomitable spirit of the human race. Artists created murals depicting scenes of hope and defiance, transforming crumbling walls into symbols of resilience. These cultural expressions reminded people what they were fighting for, not just survival, but the values that defined them as a species. President Hayes recognized the importance of morale and made frequent appearances to rally the public, whether visiting hospitals to comfort wounded soldiers or speaking directly to factory workers building new weapons. She emphasized the collective strength of humanity. "We may be different in so many ways," she often said, "but today, we are one. And together, there is nothing we cannot overcome." Her optimism resonated deeply, inspiring millions to keep pushing forward. People began referring to her speeches as messages of light, drawing strength from her unwavering belief in humanity's potential. Her leadership became a beacon of hope, guiding the world through its darkest hour. Meanwhile, the Imperial Armada grew increasingly frustrated. Commander Zorak had expected Earth to crumble under his assault, yet the humans continued to resist with surprising tenacity. Reports from his commanders painted a troubling picture. Their shield nodes were being systematically targeted, their formations disrupted, and their losses mounting. For the first time in centuries, Zorak faced the possibility of failure. "Adjust tactics," he ordered his subordinates. "Focus on disabling their production facilities. Without resources, they will weaken." The shift in strategy caught humanity off guard. Enemy ships began targeting factories, power plants, and communication hubs, attempting to cripple Earth's ability to wage war. Entire cities plunged into darkness as electrical grids failed. Supply chains faltered, leaving some regions struggling to recover. The damage was severe, but humanity refused to yield. General Carter responded swiftly, implementing contingency plans to protect vital infrastructure. Mobile units equipped with anti-aircraft weapons patrolled industrial zones, ready to intercept any incoming threats. Underground bunkers housing backup generators and manufacturing equipment sprang into action, ensuring that production never fully halted. Civilians pitched in wherever possible, repairing roads, restoring power lines, and distributing aid to affected areas. Through it all, humanity adapted. When one facility was destroyed, another took its place. When supplies ran low, communities banded together to share what little they had. The resilience of the human spirit proved unbreakable. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, as weeks turned into months, the war entered a new phase. The initial shock of the invasion had worn off, replaced by grim determination. Humanity had learned painful lessons about the Vernak's fleet's capabilities and weaknesses. They had developed new technologies, forged stronger alliances, and honed their strategies. Most importantly, they had discovered something within themselves: a fierce, unyielding will to survive. Commander Zorak watched the unfolding events with growing unease. He had underestimated humanity, assuming their primitive nature would make them easy prey. But these creatures possessed something he had rarely encountered in his conquests: unity. Despite their flaws and differences, they stood together, refusing to bow to fear or despair. For the first time in his long career, Zorak felt doubt creeping into his mind. Could the Vernak's empire truly conquer this planet, or had they awakened a force far greater than they anticipated? Far below, on the battered surface of Earth, humanity prepared for the battles ahead. They knew the road would be long and fraught with sacrifice. But they also knew one thing for certain: they would never give up. Not while there was still breath in their lungs and fire in their hearts. And so, as dawn broke over a scarred but defiant world, humanity readied itself to strike back harder than ever before. The Imperial Armada had attacked Earth, expecting an easy victory. What they found instead was a species unwilling to surrender, ready to crush them without mercy. Document. Part 4. The Imperial Armada regrouped after their initial setbacks, determined to reclaim the advantage. Commander Zorak, frustrated by humanity's resilience, devised a new strategy. Rather than focusing solely on cities and military targets, he ordered his fleet to attack Earth's orbital platforms, massive structures floating in space that housed communication networks, surveillance systems, and early warning sensors. Without these platforms, humanity would lose its ability to coordinate defenses effectively. It was a calculated move, designed to cripple Earth's resistance before it could grow stronger. Captain Jason Cole received intel about the impending assault during a briefing at Edwards Air Force Base. The room fell silent as General Ryan Carter explained the gravity of the situation. "If they destroy those platforms, we'll be blind up there," Carter said, pointing to a holographic map of Earth's orbit. "We need volunteers for a high-risk mission to protect them." Cole didn't hesitate. "I'll lead the team," he said firmly. His squadron had already proven their skill in combat, and he knew they were the best chance of holding off the invaders. Lieutenant Sarah Bennett and rookie pilot Jake Miller immediately stepped forward to join him. Together, they formed the core of the defensive force, tasked with safeguarding the orbital platforms. As they prepared for launch, tensions ran high. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If the platforms fell, humanity's ability to fight back would be severely weakened. Cole gathered his team for a final pep talk. "This is going to be tough," he admitted. "They'll come at us hard and fast. But remember why we're doing this. Every second we hold them off buys time for reinforcements to arrive. Stick together, trust each other, and don't give them an inch." The pilots climbed into their jets, engines roaring to life, as ground crews scrambled to complete last-minute checks. The airfield buzzed with activity, but Cole's mind remained focused. He glanced at Bennett and Miller, both seated in their cockpits nearby. Bennett radiated confidence, her hands steady on the controls. Miller, though visibly nervous, nodded in determination. Cole felt a flicker of pride. They were ready. Above Earth, the orbital platforms loomed like metallic islands against the blackness of space. Their surfaces bristled with antennas, solar panels, and defense turrets. As Cole's squadron approached, enemy ships materialized from the void, surrounding the platforms in a tight formation. Plasma cannons glowed ominously as the Vernax prepared to strike. "Here we go," Cole muttered under his breath. "Engage." The battle erupted instantly, a chaotic dance of fire and metal. Enemy fighters swarmed toward the platforms, unleashing devastating barrages of energy weapons. Cole's squadron dove into the fray, weaving between blasts and returning fire with precision. Bennett led the charge, her jet darting through the chaos like a streak of lightning. She locked onto an enemy ship and fired, sending it spiraling into oblivion. "Scratch one," she called out triumphantly. Miller struggled to keep up, his inexperience showing as he narrowly avoided collisions. An alien fighter pursued him, relentlessly, forcing him to perform evasive maneuvers. Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but then Cole's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay calm, Miller. You've got this." Taking a deep breath, Miller steadied himself. He remembered Cruz's advice about targeting shield nodes and adjusted his aim. When the opportunity came, he fired an EMP burst directly at the pursuing ship. Its shields collapsed, leaving it vulnerable to a follow-up missile strike. The explosion lit up the cockpit, and Miller allowed himself a brief moment of relief. "Got him," he whispered, his confidence growing. Meanwhile, Cole focused on protecting the platforms themselves. He directed his team to form a defensive perimeter, intercepting enemy ships before they could reach their targets. The platform's automated turrets joined the fight, adding bursts of gunfire to the mix. For a while, it seemed like the humans might hold their ground, but the Vernax fleet was relentless. Reinforcements poured in, overwhelming Cole's small squadron. One by one, the platforms began taking hits, their delicate instruments shattering under the barrage. Sparks flew as explosions rocked the structures, sending debris tumbling into space. Cole gritted his teeth, knowing they were running out of time. "We can't keep this up much longer," Bennett shouted over the comms. Her voice carried a note of desperation. "Where are the reinforcements?" "They're coming," Cole replied, though he wasn't entirely sure. "Just hang on." In a desperate gamble, Cole decided to draw the enemy away from the platforms. He signaled for Bennett and Miller to follow him as he broke formation, leading a group of alien fighters on a wild chase. His plan worked at least partially. Several ships peeled off to pursue him, easing the pressure on the platforms. But now Cole found himself outnumbered, dodging plasma bolts and weaving through debris fields. Bennett noticed what he was doing and quickly moved to support him. "You're not doing this alone," she said firmly. Together, they fought side by side, combining their skills to take down multiple enemy ships. Miller joined them moments later, his earlier hesitation replaced by raw determination. The trio worked seamlessly, their movements synchronized despite the chaos around them. Back at the platforms, the tide began to turn. The reinforcements finally arrived, a fresh wave of UEDF fighters descending from orbit to join the battle. Led by Captain Laura Evans, the new arrivals hit the Vernax fleet with overwhelming force, forcing them to retreat. Explosions lit up the darkness as human and alien ships clashed in a dazzling display of destruction. Cole's squadron rejoined the fight, their spirits buoyed by the arrival of backup. With combined efforts, they pushed the remaining enemy forces back, driving them away from the platforms. When the dust settled, the humans emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. 2 of the platforms sustained heavy damage, rendering them temporarily inoperable. Repair teams scrambled to assess the situation, working tirelessly to restore functionality. As Cole's squadron returned to base, exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone. The adrenaline of battle gave way to sorrow as they reflected on the losses suffered. Friends and comrades had fallen during the fight, their sacrifices ensuring the platforms remained standing. Cole addressed his team in the debriefing room, his voice tinged with emotion. "You all did amazing out there," he said, looking each of them in the eye. "We lost good people today, but because of you, we held the line. That's something to be proud of." Bennett nodded silently, her usual fiery demeanor subdued. Miller sat quietly, still processing everything he'd experienced. Despite the victory, the weight of war pressed down on them all. Later that evening, President Laura Hayes delivered another speech to the world. Images of the damaged platforms played behind her as she spoke, reminding viewers of the fragility of their defenses. "Today, our defenders proved once again that humanity will not back down," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "Everyone who served in this battle should know that their courage has inspired us all. We will rebuild what was broken, and we will continue to stand strong." Her words resonated deeply, offering comfort to a weary population. Factories ramped up production to repair the platforms, while engineers worked around the clock to reinforce their defenses. Civilians rallied once more, donating supplies and volunteering their time to support the war effort. Even children contributed, drawing pictures of fighter jets and soldiers to lift morale. For Commander Zorak, the failure to destroy the platforms was unacceptable. He summoned his top commanders to the bridge of his flagship, demanding answers. "How could such primitive beings repel us?" he growled. his frustration boiling over. Find their weaknesses, exploit them. I will not tolerate further setbacks. His subordinates exchanged uneasy glances, but dared not question him. Instead, they vowed to intensify their attacks, targeting humanity's most vulnerable points. Zorek's patience was wearing thin, and his frustration fueled a dangerous resolve. Earth would pay dearly for its defiance. Far below, humanity braced for what lay ahead. They had won a crucial victory, but the war was far from over. The platforms, though damaged, remained operational for now. Engineers raced to fortify them, knowing another attack was inevitable. Pilots rested briefly before preparing for their next mission, aware that every moment counted. Despite the challenges, hope burned brightly within the hearts of those who fought. They had proven they could stand toe-to-toe with the Vernax fleet, even when outnumbered and outgunned. Each victory, no matter how small, strengthened their resolve. Humanity had united in ways no one thought possible, driven by a shared purpose and an unyielding determination to survive. As night fell over Earth, the scars of battle lingered in the skies above. Smoke drifted lazily from shattered buildings, and craters marked the landscape where alien bombs had struck. Yet amid the destruction, lights flickered back to life in cities and towns, symbolizing humanity's refusal to surrender. The stars twinkled faintly, witnesses to a planet fighting for its future. And so, as dawn approached, humanity prepared to face whatever came next. The Imperial Armada had underestimated them once. They would not make the same mistake twice. United and resolute, humanity stood ready to crush their enemies without mercy. Document Part 5. The battle for the orbital platforms had been a close call, but humanity's defenders had held the line. Though battered and bruised, Earth's communication networks remained intact for now. However, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Vernax launched another assault. The enemy fleet still outnumbered humanity's forces, and their technology remained superior in many ways. To truly turn the tide of the war, something drastic needed to happen in Washington, D.C. General Ryan Carter convened an emergency meeting with his top advisors, including Dr. Emily Dawson. The scientists had spent countless hours analyzing data from captured alien tech, piecing together insights about how the Vernax fleet operated. Her latest discovery was groundbreaking and potentially game-changing. Commander Zorak's entire fleet is controlled remotely, Dawson explained, pointing to a holographic diagram of the Armada. Every ship, every fighter, they all rely on a central command vessel called the Overmind. It acts as the brain of the operation, coordinating movements and issuing orders. Carter leaned forward, intrigued. If we take out the whole fleet falls apart, Dawson finished for him. Without it, the ships lose cohesion. They'll start firing at each other or simply drift aimlessly. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Destroying the Overmind could cripple the Imperial Armada, giving humanity a decisive advantage. But reaching it wouldn't be easy. The Overmind was located deep within enemy territory, heavily guarded by layers of defense systems. Any mission to infiltrate it would be incredibly dangerous, likely suicidal. We need a small strike team, Carter said finally. Someone who can slip past their defenses and plant explosives inside the Overmind. Captain Jason Cole volunteered immediately. As one of the most experienced pilots in the UEDF, he understood the risks, but he also knew what was at stake. "I'll lead the mission," he said firmly. "We've come this far. We can't let them win." General Carter nodded, trusting Cole's judgment. "Pick your team carefully. You'll need people you can count on." Cole didn't hesitate. He selected Lieutenant Sarah Bennett for her combat skills and unshakable determination. Rookie pilot Jake Miller joined them, having proven his worth during the defense of the orbital platforms. For covert operations expertise, Cole turned to Samantha Reed, a specialist in stealth missions and sabotage. Reed was quiet and reserved, but her record spoke for itself. She had completed some of the most daring operations in recent history. The four gathered in a briefing room to discuss the plan. Cole laid out the details on a map projected onto the wall. "Here's the Overmind," he said, pointing to a massive structure surrounded by smaller ships. "Our best chance is to approach undetected using a cloaked cruiser designed by Dr. Dawson's team. Once we're inside, we'll plant explosives at key points and get out before detonation." "It won't be that simple," Reed interjected, her tone measured but firm. "Their security systems are advanced. Even if we make it inside, we'll face patrols, automated defenses, and possibly traps." Bennett crossed her arms, glaring at Reed. "You think we can't handle it?" "I'm just saying, we need to be realistic," Reed replied coolly. "This isn't like flying jets. One mistake in there, and we're dead." Cole stepped in before the tension escalated further. "She's right. This is going to be the hardest thing any of us has ever done. But we don't have a choice. If we succeed, we end this war." Miller listened quietly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. He had never imagined himself in a situation like this when the invasion began. Yet here he was, part of a team entrusted with humanity's last hope. Determination replaced his fear. He wouldn't let anyone down. Preparations began immediately. Engineers worked tirelessly to outfit the cloaked cruiser with everything the team might need: EMP devices to disable enemy systems, thermal suits to mask body heat, and compact explosives capable of destroying the Overmind's core. Meanwhile, the rest of the UEDF prepared a diversionary attack to draw attention away from the strike team's insertion point. As launch day approached, emotions ran high. Cole spent hours reviewing the plan with his team, running simulations, and practicing contingency scenarios. Bennett drilled Miller relentlessly, ensuring he could handle whatever challenges lay ahead. Reed kept mostly to herself, fine-tuning her equipment and mentally preparing for the mission. On the eve of departure, President Laura Hayes visited the base to address the strike team personally. She stood before them, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "What you're about to do will go down in history," she said softly. "Not because of the danger, but because of the courage it takes to step into the unknown for the sake of others. Know that billions of people are counting on you and praying for your safe return." Her words resonated deeply, reminding the team why they were doing this. Afterward, they shared a quiet meal together, savoring what might be their last moments of peace. Laughter broke through the tension occasionally, though it was tinged with sadness. Each member of the team carried their own fears, but they found strength in one another. The next morning, the cloaked cruiser lifted off silently, disappearing into the void without a sound. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Cole piloted the vessel with precision, navigating through asteroid fields and avoiding enemy patrols. Reed monitored sensors, ensuring they remained undetected. Bennett and Miller double-checked their gear, rehearsing their roles one final time. Hours passed in silence as they drew closer to the Overmind. Finally, the massive structure came into view, a towering monolith bristling with weapons and glowing conduits. Smaller ships orbited it like moths around a flame, forming a dense perimeter. "This is it," Cole said, his voice steady. "Reed, take us in." Using her expertise, Reed guided the cruiser through the outer defenses, slipping between patrol routes and evading detection. When they reached a service hatch on the Overmind's hull, the team disembarked, leaving the cruiser hidden nearby. Wearing thermal suits to conceal their presence, they moved cautiously along the ship's exterior, searching for an entry point. Inside, the Overmind was eerily silent. Its corridors stretched endlessly, illuminated by pulsating lights that cast strange shadows on the walls. Automated drones patrolled the area, forcing the team to stay alert. Every step felt like walking a tightrope. One wrong move, and they'd be caught. "Stay close," Cole whispered, leading the way. "We don't have much time." They reached the first Target power relay station and planted explosives quickly before moving on. Tension mounted with each passing minute, knowing they were deep behind enemy lines. At one point, a patrol nearly discovered them, but Reed's quick thinking saved the day. She triggered a decoy signal, luring the guards away just in time. Despite the dangers, the team pressed forward, planting charges at designated locations. By the time they reached the core chamber, sweat dripped from their brows, and exhaustion weighed heavily on their bodies. But they couldn't afford to slow down, not yet. Inside the chamber, they found Commander Zorak himself overseeing operations. His imposing figure loomed over a control panel, barking orders to subordinates. For a moment, the team froze, unsure how to proceed. Zorak noticed them almost instantly. To their surprise, he raised a hand to stop his guards from attacking. "Wait," he commanded, his voice calm but commanding. "You're here to destroy the Overmind, aren't you?" Cole stepped forward, his weapon trained on Zorak. "That's right. Stand aside, or we'll take you down too." Zorak studied them carefully, his expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, he lowered his weapon. "I've seen enough of this war," he admitted. "My empire has grown fat on conquest, but I see now that it has made us weak. Perhaps your species is stronger than I thought." Reed narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "Why should we trust you?" "You shouldn't," Zorak replied, "but I offer my assistance. Let me help you finish this." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Could they trust him? Or was this a trap? In the end, Cole decided to accept Zorak's offer for now. With his knowledge of the Overmind's layout, they could complete their mission faster. Under Zorak's guidance, they planted the final explosives near the core. As the timer ticked down, Zorak turned to face them. "Go. I will remain here to ensure the detonation sequence completes." Before anyone could argue, he activated a lockdown protocol, sealing himself inside the chamber. Cole hesitated for a moment, then nodded grimly. "Let's move." The team raced back to the cruiser, adrenaline fueling their every step. Behind them, alarms blared as the Overmind detected the explosives. They barely made it aboard before the countdown ended. A deafening explosion rocked the ship, sending shockwaves rippling through space from the viewport. They watched as the Overmind collapsed in on itself, consumed by fire and debris. Surrounding ships drifted aimlessly, their systems offline. The Imperial Armada was in disarray. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the Overmind's destruction spread. Fireworks lit up the night sky, and crowds gathered in streets and squares, cheering for the heroes who had saved them. President Hayes delivered a heartfelt speech, praising the strike team for their bravery and sacrifice. And so, as